if we can define that as remote, I think it's changed it 173%. I mean, we've seen organizations have widely abandoned classroom training. The Guild research that we have done around this is that many of them don't plan to return to that there will be less face-to-face, that they're letting go of their physical buildings, that they're not going to have classrooms anymore. They're not going to have the building downtown or the building in Chicago where people got flown in to take a course. The opportunity is not even going to be there. So I think that we have seen a wide adoption of other approaches. What concerns me, since you asked that already, is that so much of it was very, very rapidly shifted to stuff like this, like Zoom. In what I think was an early panic moment in March and April of what I like to think of as emergency remote teaching. We just had to move, we had to get it somewhere, and people rushed to get stuff online. But now we're all these months in, and we've got people saying maybe they'll never go back to the old way. And they haven't done much in the way of redesigning those experiences. They just sort of grab the static stuff. Here are the slides, here are the notes, here's somebody who can read them. They haven't. I think one of the big problems we have had in that shift is that very little attention has been paid to facilitator training. That people have talked about how to redesign. There is obsession about security. Somebody might hack into my stress management class. Oh no, not that. And there's been a lot of talk about things like making slides work, but there's not much talk, and icebreakers. Oh my Lord, all of the sites talking about icebreakers. But I've seen very little about how to redesign a classroom activity to make it work in this environment, how to redesign it in a way that maybe we can make it more convenient to learners so they don't have to be physically present. I see a lot of people, I know that I have friends who are in this business. I do a lot of work with and for in-sync training. And their owner says that the demand for 8-hour Zoom sessions has gone up something like 4,000% this year. Hundreds of, I mean, we need to get away from doing that to people too. That wasn't great in a traditional classroom, and it's just murder here. So I think that we are seeing a much bigger acceptance. Some days I feel a little smug that everybody's suddenly embracing something I've tried to sell since 2000, the year 2000. I don't know that we're doing a great job of it. And I think, like I said, we're so far in now with an intent, maybe we won't go back. It's time to look at really redesigning and making better choices and not just continuing to do the emergency remote stuff, but telling people to be better in this environment, to adapt materials, to adapt activities, to get rid of the idea that just endless icebreakers is somehow making things engaging.
I was surprised recently when the local ATD chapter asked me to speak on mobile learning. It was actually almost 2 years ago now, I think. But I was, I was like, mobile's old news. Like for you maybe, Clark, but not for everybody. And yet, to me, I liked mobile as a gateway drug, because I've been talking about the performance ecosystem. We should be integrating our informal learning and our performance support and our formal learning into a coherent whole. And mobile tended to do that because it was really bad idea to put a course onto this. It just, there are times when it made sense, but most of the time it didn't. Tablet's a different story. So then, but it got people's, with mobile was exciting. It was the buzzword of the day, right? So people started saying, what can we do with it? And it allowed you to start talking about performance support and informal learning and contextual information. And then it made it easier to help people think that that's not just true of mobile. We can do that at the desktop as well. So it was sort of a gateway drug to the performance ecosystem. And it's funny, I've been running a mobile course for the Allen Academy that's really a performance ecosystem course. And yet mobile is a really nice way to break people out of their thinking about how we use technology. Because you ask, how do you use your phone to make you smarter? And people tell really interesting tales about, taking pictures of where they park in a parking lot, and navigating with Google and putting things in their calendar so they don't, so alarms. That's one of the things I do is put alarms into my calendar so I don't forget things I've committed to do, like this call. And when you go collect all these and you do it in a group and you get them sharing all these amazing things they do, and sometimes they give each other new ideas and it's great. Then you say, how much of that was the course? The answer's there, and suddenly you've shifted thinking. You've opened up a new opportunity, and that to me is the real magic of mobile. And ultimately, I think mobile is great for performance support. I think that's its natural niche. I think the opportunity, the big opportunity coming with mobile, is going to be contextualization, doing things because of when and where you are, and a whole bunch of other things that the increasing variety of sensors on these things will enable. And that's going to be the opportunity. I think we're only beginning to really unpack what's possible there.
It's still there. It's still. We actually had at the Guild, we used to have a conference dedicated to mobile learning called eLearning. And it was one of our conferences that we do that from an organizer standpoint, it seems to have almost a cognitive dissonance in terms of why we would host the event. The ultimate success of the eLearn conference for me was that we looked at it one day and said, we don't need an eLearn conference anymore, because it just became part of the conversation. That mobile just became part of the learning conversation. It was no longer mobile learning like it was a separate thing. Mobile was just another element of the thing, and it was no longer a separate conversation. That, of course, is a broad statement. There are some organizations that still haven't shifted to mobile. That it's based on your unique context of your organization. So you might need to place some isolated focus on it as you implement it in your organization. And that's not right or wrong. That's just applying it to the context of your unique organization, which is fine. But I think that the other thing I would say about mobile learning, I do hope that people pay attention to it a little bit more, because we made the same mistake with mobile learning in my mind that we make with a lot of new technologies that emerge, which is we approach it with the wrong question. We tend to approach a new technology, and this applies to a lot of things, but I think mobile is a great example, where a new technology emerges and we say, how do I do what I do through this new technology? And I think that that's a very limiting question, because it comes with the blinders of what I do. And if you think about how we used mobile phones when they first emerged, we treated them like a screen. We treated them just like it was another screen, but we have responsive design so that the content adjusts appropriately so that I can read it, but we still treated it as another screen, like it was a desktop screen, but only smaller. And if you think about your mobile phones, it has so many unique affordances, so many unique things that it can do that your desktop could never do. But if you treat it as just another screen, you leave all that off the table. And I think that there's opportunities to do more with, the example that I use when I speak at events about this very often is, if you think about your personal smartphone, and you just when you're sitting there, you're thinking about how you've used your smartphone today. Right now, it's about 3 o'clock Eastern time where I'm at. I've probably used my phone about 60 different ways so far today, and I haven't made a phone call yet. And if I take that knowledge of just how I've used my phone so far today, and I compare that to how the average organization is leveraging these devices in the context of organizational learning, there's a huge gap in terms of how I use it personally and how we use it in the average organization. And that's a gap of opportunity. That's a gap of approaching it not with the technology, with a question that's a little bit more open of how does this new technology change what I do? What could I do with this new technology that I couldn't do yesterday? And that's where the opportunities of new technology. And I think we lost a little bit of that with mobile, but we still have an opportunity to capture it.